Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network, the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. A few more places too. I'm sure they listen to Big C Sports at the Global 8 Big C, because all the big countries are around that. And I think Donald Trump forgot that the FBI told him that Putin spied, so he really didn't mention it too much other than saying, I believe you more than the FBI. We do love our friends up north in Canada, and of course there's no one we love more than you good old boys down south in the land of the free, in the home of the brave, Big C. How's it going for all of you good old boys down south?
It's a little nervous down here now. Trump meeting with Putin. And, I think, you could take the first letter of Putin's name and say that he punked him.
Yeah.
Not getting anything. I mean, what you do as the president of the United States who represents America.
Yeah.
You discredit all our security sources.
Yeah.
Of this country. All the people who have spent their lifetime protecting America.
Yeah.
And the Americans that are here, regardless of your political belief.
Yeah.
These people work for America, not for Trump, but
Yeah.
for America.
Yeah.
For him to discredit all our security agencies since he's been president of the United States, and I mean, he's a novice about what he does, and Paul Ryan can say he's new on the job.
Yeah. Right.
But he didn't just learn stupidity, okay? He came to the office with him.
Yeah.
All right?
That's funny.
He came to the office with him. But to walk in, and this is about the first time in 40 years that America has taken a back seat to Russia.
Yeah.
As far as diplomacy and policy. Now Russia's actually in control and dictating what they're going to do to America and the rest of the world. That is a terrible place to be in. So people can talk about jobs increasing in America.
Yeah.
And things looking better, Charlton. But on the world platform, that's when everything comes from. And when we have lost credibility and power within the world because of one individual,
Yeah.
that's a sad state of affairs for America.
Well, Big C, I grew up around animals, and sometimes when you bring a dominant dog around a passive dog, the passive dog always lays down or put his head down on the ground just so the dominant dog knows, hey, look, I'm not challenging you, right? But when they're two aggressive dogs, they'll stare each other in the eye. If you notice, Donald Trump plays like a dominant guy in the country and when he's on TV, but when you watch his handshake with Putin, his handshake is palm is up in the air, which is a sign of submission, okay? That's what scientists will tell you. When you shake someone's hand, you put your palm up in the air and the top part of your hand to the ground, that's a sign of submission, the same way submissive dogs lay down to powerful dogs. I just thought that was very powerful. It's a subconscious, nonverbal communication style, but he's very acquiescing to whatever Putin has on him, Big C. Hopefully we'll find that out. I want to say today's segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac leaders, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. And the last thing I want to bring up on Trump, because obviously we have the issues with North Korea, we have the issues with so many countries around the world trying to get the nuclear weapons so they can be, I guess, players at the dinner table. But to have this thing with Putin and to discredit all the work of the FBI and the CIA and all the good old boys that worked so hard for us. And, we just celebrated Independence Day, okay? All the people, the soldiers who fought for Independence Day, and now we're saying we trust an oligarchy from Russia more than we do our own FBI and CIA. I think that's a shame, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, all our national security agents, Charlton, work synonymously with each other. And they have worked together long before Trump was ever considered being president and probably before he was born, Charlton.
Yeah.
But, they have been the backbone of America. And these people go unnoticed, in America's, security forces. We see our officers and stuff in blue and green, Charlton, but we don't see the national security agencies. These people work mindlessly and tirelessly, Charlton, to make sure that they have this country protected from every type of, incident that may or potentially may occur.
Yeah.
And to go out and discredit them and say that they're not credible sources, and how can you believe them?
Yeah.
Why did you take the job?
Yeah.
If this is what you want to do to our national media, to our national security forces, Charlton, why did you take the job if you want to spend time discrediting Americans instead of discrediting Putin
Yeah, and so that's obviously, now we even have Mitch McConnell saying President Obama was too smart for us to replace and repeal Obamacare. Maybe we should start trying to just, make improvements on it the same way we make improvements to healthcare, the same way we make improvements to the educational system. Even car companies make improvements to their cars. Big C, Cadillac makes a much better car now than they did 20 years ago. So we can always make improvements. It's taken them that long to realize after 7 years, almost 8 years, they cannot replace anything because they don't know what they're doing. Hopefully, we'll have better heads come together and put our country first. And speaking of what we've been talking about this week, Big C, I see it all over the networks now. I just want to finish our thoughts on college football because it's something that everybody loves, no matter what. If you good old boys in the South can get Alabama and Auburn together, we can have diplomacy in the White House, Big C. But I just want to bring up a few things with the NCAA. When you talk about the history of the sport, we talked about some of the top quarterbacks, whether it's Sam Darnold out of Southern California. He's really, really hyped quarterback, but he's a good kid. And then we have Baker Mayfield out of Oklahoma. You have Lamar Jackson from Louisville last year. Just a lot of good players, Big C. I want to get your thoughts on, even though it's too early to talk Heisman Trophy, I want to ask you about these top programs. Which ones do you think that we can call blue butt programs that you're always looking forward to watching, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that Alabama's going to be leading in the race, Charlton, as far as just dominant program.
Yeah.
When you look at the recruiting class that they have year after year, they don't lose players, they just replace
They replace,
players,
yeah.
They seem to always have 2 players for everyone that leads the program.
Yeah.
Not since they won the national championship have they fallen off.
Yeah.
When you look at it, they've been in the playoffs every year.
Yeah.
Except for one. But, this is a program that just keeps retooling and retooling. Michigan has had a great resurgence since Jim Harbaugh's come into the program, Charlton. They've consistently been in the top 10
Yeah.
in the country. They've had a couple unfortunate losses as things have gone on. The team that I look at it discouraging the most is Clemson. This team won the national championship back-to-back years in the game, Charlton. Now
Yeah.
that they're without Deshaun Watson, we will see the true value of a quarterback on that college level.
Yeah.
How easy or how hard will it be to replace him? They have tremendous athletes there in Clemson, but, Deshaun Watson was a cog that, drove that horse. We look at Florida State. Jimbo Fisher trying to put that team back on the top of the ACC now that Deshaun Watson is gone
Yeah.
from Clemson. When we talk about the SEC, Charlton, and we talk about the dominance of that conference, really there's only been 3 teams
Yeah.
that have been dominant in that conference over the last 5 years. No team other than Alabama has really gone out and set the table against everybody.
Yeah.
They've had a riser here and there in Florida. Get Georgia, they'll have peaks and valleys. A&M has also done the same. LSU let go of Les Miles last year, and now they're in a retooling under Orgeron.
Yeah.
But, as we look at the landscape of college football and the West Coast out there where you hang out with all those beach boys, don't
Yeah.
get enough press in the East. You talked about Donald.
Yeah.
Being a preseason Heisman candidate after playing only 10 college games.
Yeah.
You look at Rosen down the street at UCLA. This kid's been starting since his first freshman game.
Yeah.
Has a lot of promise. A kid that is semi-risen to the top. Jake Browning.
Yeah.
Getting all the press at the University of Washington. Had the team in the championship race last year. But probably the best of all of them is Falk out of Washington State.
Yeah.
The kid passed for just under 5,000 yards. Charlton last year under Mike Leach's tutelage. So, you look at a conference out there in the back that has 4 solid quarterbacks.
Yeah.
NFL caliber. And this is what you need when you get to the Super Bowl. If you look at the quarterbacks that have been in the Super Bowl, Charlton, since the participation in that game started,
Yeah.
they've all played their senior year in college, Charlton.
Yeah. That's a very good point.
And so, unless you play that senior year in college, and I go back to your buddy Trent Dilfer, the only one who didn't.
Yeah.
Neither did he play in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But, that's what it takes to be a championship lineage quarterback. You can't walk into that game and say, okay, I've started 25 games in college. Now I'm ready to lead an NFL team, Charlton.
Yeah.
You're not.
Yeah.
You got to have 40, 50 games under your belt. Russell Wilson, Charlton, started over 50 games in college.
Yeah.
And look at what he did in his young NFL career. He's been to a couple Super Bowls. Ben Roethlisberger did the same thing, Charlton, in Miami, Ohio. 3-year starter, 4-year player at that university.
Yeah.
And you see the success his career has had with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Eli Manning, one of the greatest interception throwers in the NFL.
Yeah.
You know, it was the same way. A 3.5-year starter. You know, University of Mississippi, as well as his brother Peyton, a 4-year starter at Tennessee, who is now retired.
Yeah.
Cam Newton started for 4 years, you know, in college. Although 2 of them were at a junior college.
Yeah.
But he also did that at Alabama in a national championship game, Charles,
Yeah.
that he won with that university.
Yeah.
Marcus Mariota, who is on the verge of becoming the best quarterback in the NFC South, even though Andrew Luck is playing in that same division.
Yeah.
You know, he has really risen to the cream in the NFL, you know, coming from his college days. You think about it, he has the best interception to touchdown ratio in the NFL in the last 2 years. He's thrown 33 red zone touchdowns
Wow.
in the NFL in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And 0 interceptions. He needs to give Eli Manning a call.
That's an interesting stat you just brought up. They called him a running back, you know, a running quarterback. He came out of St. Louis High School in Honolulu, Hawaii, Big C, and of course went up to Oregon and played for the Oregon Ducks and had a great run with the Oregon Ducks. But his touchdown to interception ratio that you just pointed out, one of the tops in the NFL, even though he's considered a running quarterback, and a lot of franchises say they want to get away from that running quarterback, Colin Kaepernick style, and you just mentioned how much success he's had. But I just want to touch on one more thing, too, in the college game. We talk about quarterbacks and who can be the top player, and obviously they want guys that can throw the ball downfield. They want guys that can stay in the pocket and get sacked as opposed to rushing out of the pocket. Penn State, Shaquan Barkley had a great Rose Bowl. He rushed for 1,000 yards back-to-back with Penn State freshman and sophomore year. He has goals of setting a single-season rushing mark for Penn State. That was Larry Johnson for Penn State back in 2002. And even though we have quarterbacks, Big C, all over the country that get the top nod for who's going to lead their team to a championship game, I really like this kid. He goes under the radar, playing in the Big 10 or Big 19, however many schools they have up there, Big C. But he's going to have the chance to tote the rock a lot because they have the inclement weather up at Penn State. So I don't think he's going to come out and win the Heisman because he's not being that highly touted. But when I look at a kid as a freshman and a sophomore that can get 1,000-yard back-to-back seasons in the Big 10, that reminds me of a Larry Johnson or even a Franco Harris from back in the day, Big C. Your thoughts? Oh, yeah.
We saw how much of a disappointing season he had, even though he should have a stellar pro career.
Yeah.
I mean, you also look at Bo Scarborough down at University of Alabama, who looks like Derrick Henry.
Oh, he does.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Just a big, scrappy young back, Jonathan. When you look up and down the ledger at running backs around the country, running backs don't have the stellarness that they once had some 25, 30 years ago in college football.
No.
Where everybody looked at them as workhorses. Because this game now has become an air raid game on the college level, Charlton. It's about putting the ball in the air.
Yeah.
You know, they understand that instant offense is throwing the ball on offense, not sitting there with the 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Well, AstroTurf nowadays.
Yeah.
But, when we look at these running backs,
yeah.
I mean, regardless of how great the running backs are, and when we look at the national championship game, it was led by quarterbacks, Charlton, and these quarterbacks are mobile. When you look at the entire playoff series, the only team that did not have a mobile quarterback was the University of Washington.
Yeah.
And we saw what happened to Browning when you talked about quarterbacks staying in the pocket.
Yeah.
Sacked. He was injured in that game.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, that's one of the hindrances of having a non-mobile quarterback. Yes, it looks great when they're completing passes, but we've seen these phenomenal athletes that they have on defense now, Charlton.
Yeah.
Where, you know, defensive schemes have become so sophisticated on the college level that you can bring a blitz from anywhere, from a corner, from a safety, from a linebacker. You're running twist stunts with your linemen.
Yeah.
So it's not as easy to read on the college level because these young quarterbacks have so much on their plate that they're trying to decipher in that short window of time.
Well, Big C, you brought that up. I know a lot of people, they love Jackson. I love what you said about Marcus Mariota with his touchdown to interception ratio because that goes in the face of what a lot of these experts say. We don't want a guy who can run. We want a guy who can stay in the pocket so he won't get hurt. And I love that about Jackson. This guy completes over 60% of his passes. Every defensive coordinator must have fits when Louisville lines up. They may not be as physical as a lot of teams up front, Big C, from the Big Ten or the SEC or the Pac-12, but obviously this kid should be on target again to at least be in the Heisman Trophy consideration. Someone that surprises me, that I don't even think should be here, but he's there anyway. At Wyoming, quarterback Josh Allen. He's considered a potential number 1 overall pick in a conference, but they don't have the television revenue. They don't have the national exposure. But I want to bring up their schedule for Wyoming this year. They were 8-6 last year. You know, the altitude is pretty high up there. They play at Iowa. Okay, that's a big game for him if he's going to be considered one of the top picks. And then Gardner-Webb. I don't even know who Gardner-Webb is. I thought it was a law firm, but that's a football game that Wyoming is playing. And then they jump into the meat of the schedule with Oregon, and then Hawaii, and then they play Texas State. So obviously, if this kid can win, they got to beat BYU, not BYU, but Fresno State, and then Boise State later in the year, Big C, as well as Nevada and New Mexico. But a kid that comes out of nowhere, how can he be highly touted like Jackson or Mayfield or even Darnold? No one even knows who he is, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's amazing what your media department can do for you, you know, on the college level. And I'll take you back to a kid from the 70s.
Yeah.
Joe Theismann. They changed his name at Notre Dame to Theismann. His name is actually Theismann.
Oh, really?
But for him to be a Heisman candidate, they named it the Theismann because it rhymed with Heisman. Instead of Theismann, it didn't rhyme with Heisman.
That's good knowledge.
What a media department will do, Charlton, for a player is that they will make them bigger than life. And, you know, we've seen great quarterbacks. And, you know, you're talking about this kid out of Wyoming. Here it is, Falk, who led the West Coast in passing at Washington State.
Yeah.
He's not even being considered a Heisman candidate and led the Wahoos to a winning season last year up there in Pullman.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you look at those great quarterbacks, and I think Browning may have been either first or second in Pac Player of the Year.
Yeah.
So, you know, you think about those quarterbacks on the left coast in the larger, more productive conferences.
Yeah.
And, you know, Baker Mayfield, we talked about the 2 kids at Oklahoma and Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
That combined between these 2 kids, Charlton, 15,000 yards over the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, you get a kid that's rising up out of nowhere out on a prairie somewhere where they got pronghorn antelope.
Yeah.
And he's being considered a Heisman candidate, and yet no one's seen him on television.
Yeah.
There's some great quarterbacks that have played in that conference out there, Charlton. I think about Kellen Moore.
Steve Young.
You know, was one of the greatest quarterbacks in college football.
Yeah.
He's a backup on the Cowboys roster.
Yeah.
But, you know, and then you have Colin Kaepernick, who is one of the few quarterbacks beat Kellen Moore on the college level.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, that conference has produced some tremendous quarterbacks. And even in Boise now, they got the nephew of Mark Rippon, who went to a couple of Super Bowls with the Washington Redskins playing quarterback for him. So there's some tremendous quarterbacks on the West Coast. This could be a stellar draft if everybody entered, and hopefully everybody won't, because I'm hoping that those underclassmen, Charlton, will stay in college, because it's better for college football to have some senior quarterbacks. It's not like college basketball with a 1 and 2 and done, and you're ready for the pros. It takes a lot more than that on the football level, because this is a game of men where you're playing against men all the time.
Yeah.
And just because you're a tremendous athlete doesn't mean that everybody else around you are on the professional level, Charlton. So develop yourself as much as you can on that college level, so you can recognize that pro game a little easier.
That's a very good point, Big C. I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation for this billion-dollar industry. And for every sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We go through Ben and Mark. They work with Big C Sports. They've been around half a century. They're in all 50 states for pro athletes, collegiate athletes, your high school athletes, even your mom and pop soccer leagues. Tweet out to them or call them up and let them know that Charlton and Big C sent you. Big C, as we finish up on our college football segment, and of course, Big C Sports did it first. Now I'm seeing it all over ESPN and Fox. They're all doing segments on college football, even though it's still about 50 days away, except for down south. You guys do college football like every day of the week, from what I understand. From what I understand. Yeah, I understand. But just to keep in mind, no matter who you're watching this year, who you like to win championships, I do appreciate these top schools playing each other, whether it's Alabama, Florida State, USC, Texas A&M, UCLA, and of course you're always going to have the Alabama, Auburn, USC, Notre Dame traditional rivals. I really like that a lot. But I just want to add something too that I did not know about until I did some researching around. Big C, we were talking about the blue blood conferences and the top schools. that have $100 million coming in because they play football. There's also some programs that get help from the federal government. I had no idea, but maybe if I think about it, University Army football, they get $13 million a year for their athletic program pumped in from the federal government. UNLV gets $7.3 million. There's other programs on there like Nevada, Wyoming, as well as a New Mexico State, Northern Arizona, and also Boise State. Can you bring up why college programs, athletic programs, with this Title IX issue, they're getting funding from the state to keep their programs going? Big C, your thoughts? Yeah.
And many of these athletes compete, and they're part of the ROTC, so it's part of the government funding.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at it realistically, Jonathan, all these state universities have government funding.
Yeah.
You can say Penn State, Ohio State. As long as you're a state university, Fresno State out there where you are, you're going to get government funding, Jonathan. It's just there.
Yeah.
And so it's part of the educational tool that we have in America. How money is spent around America, you need more than a calculus degree to figure it out.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah, that's true.
As we look at these athletic programs that bring in the high dollar, you wonder why they need to be subsidized.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no different than corporate America being subsidized
Yeah.
by the government.
Yeah.
Why are you subsidized? The National Football League is subsidized by the American government.
Yeah.
So when we look at college football and college sports, at least these kids have an opportunity to get an education, but the American government subsidizes billionaires.
Yeah.
So I'm not so much concerned about the college athlete who doesn't get paid.
Yeah.
Even though he should.
Yeah.
But when we stop subsidizing billionaires in America, Jonathan,
Yeah.
then I think that everyone should be more concerned about what happens on the college ledger.
Yeah, and that's a shame that we bring that up with the funding that comes from the federal government to some programs. One of the better programs, at least history-wise, with the athletes, Pete Carroll played there in college, UOP in Stockton, University of the Pacific, just south of Sacramento, east of the Bay Area. They lost their football program about a decade and a half ago, Big C. It had a 30,000-seat on-campus stadium. In fact, the 49ers would practice there in the summertime, but they lost football because they could not get the funding. Yet you have schools like Boise State, New Mexico State that get funding, and they still have the program intact. It would have been great to have them stay there. Also, Santa Clara lost football. There's a tight end that went there named Brent. He actually played for the 49ers. And
Doug Cosby also.
Yeah.
There were two Super Bowl tight ends.
Yeah.
Dan Pastorini.
Yeah.
Who was the number one draft pick back in 1971 for the Houston Oilers, played at the University of Santa Clara, as well as Doug Cosby, Super Bowl winning tight end.
Yeah.
With the Dallas Cowboys, and Brent Jones.
Brent Jones, yeah.
Winning tight end with the San Francisco 49ers, Jones.
Yeah, and that's good knowledge, Big C. And then also in California alone, we've had Cal State Fulton. They lost their funding. They lost their football program. They actually played in the California Raisin Bowl back in the day when they would play it in Fresno. We also have programs that have gone. I mean, they're just gone, Big C. We've had I think Long Beach State lost their program back in the day also. They also had a good program. So just a lot of good things that have happened, but bad things that could have helped save some of those programs too along the way. Big C, a little bit of disturbing news about one of your friends, from what I understand, the great Bobby Knight. I was reading that he was actually under investigation by the FBI in 2015 for not endorsing Donald Trump yet, but for the sexual harassment. Why do all these good old boys have something in common with POTUS, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Jonathan, when you think about the culture of so many of these high-profile people, what did Donald Trump say? When you're rich,
You can get away with stuff.
What you want to do?
Yeah.
You can grab a woman anywhere. You can put your tongue down her throat. And I think that's how Bobby Knight was operating. He was down at the University of Texas Tech, down in Lubbock.
Yeah.
When these allegations took place after his ouster from the University of Indiana.
Yeah.
In Bloomington. These people have walked around with autonomy for years, Jonathan, because they've been looked at as gods from the boosters
Yeah.
and fans in these general areas.
Yeah.
And so they've gotten away with a lot, even through law enforcement, because boosters are part of that.
Yeah.
And they turn the blind eye on a lot of these incidents with these so-called celebrities, as the president would call them.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any difference what is the racial composite of a celebrity.
Yeah.
It's just, if you're wrong, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Whether you're Bobby Knight or any other coach doing something that is inappropriate, such as this, and we knew what type of inappropriate behavior he
Yeah.
had with the young men that he was coaching.
Yeah.
So it doesn't shock seeing his behavior towards the young men that he recruited and told parents that he would treat them like they were his own son.
Yeah, he's also the same coach that threw a chair across the floor, and people make it seem like, oh, that's just Bobby Knight being Bobby Knight. But now you have these allegations that come up, and I'm not really surprised whether it's a pope or whether it's a coach or anybody in society. I'm just not surprised when something like that happens. You do want to hope that they're innocent, but at some point in time, you really don't know people, Big C. That's just the fact of the matter, whether it's Coach Paterno or Sandusky or even Bobby Knight. Ironically, up here at the Big Ten Conference, a lot of things have gone on. Even that good old boy that got Ohio State in trouble, Tressel, I think he came over there from Youngstown State and got them good old boys in trouble at Ohio State. So I'm not really surprised when any bad news drops by somebody. Maybe they stop giving money to somebody after all the years, Big C. But hopefully I just don't know what to say about Bobby Knight in his situation. He was held as a paragon of virtue, but as you look deeper and deeper into the backgrounds of some of these people, they're just guys getting a paycheck, Big C. I just want to get your thought on how we can stop looking at everybody as a hero in society and quit thinking that athletes and coaches are heroes. They're just people with problems like everybody else, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is something that's given to people from infancy, that, you have to hold your sports team in the highest of regard.
Yeah.
Whether high school, college, professional.
Yeah.
People are lifelong fanatics about their sports. This is the reason why we have this thing called fanfare. People who live in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Walk around with their team colors, Charlton.
Yeah.
Who have mosaics at their home.
Yeah.
And sanctuaries for these teams. But you're not going to get away from that. As a culture in America, you need something to divert your energy from, Charlton. Those everyday parts of life.
Yeah.
And that's what sports has provided for so many people, is that respite from reality.
Yeah.
When you go to a game, and especially a college game, Charlton, where people are painting their face.
Yeah.
They have on the team colors, Charlton, and they're just livid fans. They're crazy, and that's bringing out that inner youth in a person, and really it's good for life.
Yeah.
Because it keeps you healthy. And so, but in doing that, Charlton, we sometimes lose perspective of the people that we're cheering on.
Yeah.
And wondering, should we be cheering them or booing them because of some of their actions outside their playing arena?
Yep, that's a very good point. I think one of you good old boys down south, didn't some guy, I guess he destroyed a tree in the Alabama and Auburn rivalry. I guess he poisoned a tree because he was so crazy about it, and a knucklehead called into a radio station and said who he was, and I guess he was arrested for it, basically. That's how tough and how serious, and actually, I guess sometimes even deranged that some people can be. Sports, yeah.
We never said that these fans were intelligent.
Yeah, I understand.
And, we know some of the history of that culture.
Yeah.
That you're going to go out there and put some poison on some 100-year-old oak trees.
Yeah.
And then you're going to call into the Paul Fire Marshal and tell them who you are and what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And how long it's going to take for the trees to die, Charlton.
Well,
So, he wasn't a very smart person.
Well, that tells you.
He was on the phone, and so you knew what you were dealing with.
And well, the crazy thing, Big C, is Paul Feinbaum put him on the air. That's what that tells you, the kind of audience listening to his program, Big C. But either way, it is what it is. I want to just touch on a little bit. We talk about what's going on in the world of sports, and the NBA and NFL football and college football. They're always kings. I just want to touch on a few things with the NBA before we finish off on the NFL, Big C. The New York Knicks, Tim Hardaway, I think he's still getting paid, and he was playing in the D League. Big C, that make any sense?
Well, Charlton, this is Tim Hardaway Jr., not the real Tim Hardaway.
Oh yeah, Junior.
Mike Dolan might have got a little confused when he heard the name Tim Hardaway.
Yeah.
And man thought it was part of a TMC that used to play there with the Warriors.
Yeah.
But this is a young man out of the University of Michigan, Charlton. A year and a half ago, he was playing in the NBA D League.
Yeah.
And this is a team that has Carmelo Anthony and Fazekas. You think about it. Fazekas is probably the top player if Carmelo Anthony leaves.
Yeah.
And you give this young man, and I'm not saying anybody should not get paid.
Right.
But, you really need to go into a therapist or somebody, Charlton. You got somebody who's in the D League a year and a half ago. $71 million, Charlton, over 4 years. $71 million. This guy is not even a star in the NBA.
No.
And he was playing with the Atlanta Hawks this last season, halfway through the season. The Hawks picked him up.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the Hawks are going to match that that offer sheet, y'all. As a matter of fact, when it was signed, they started laughing.
Yeah. Well,
the Hawks are a rebuilding team, but
yeah.
no one was going to take them for a fool and try to match that offer sheet.
Well, Big C, I understand when you don't wear your glasses, sometimes you don't see all the numbers you're writing down on a sheet of paper. I believe also in some NBA action, we talk about Carmelo Anthony doing some things to try to get out of New York. I think he just wants to leave and go to a better environment. And I think Vince Carter, there's talk that he just signed with the Sacramento Kings. I believe that's what I heard. I haven't looked into it yet, but there's a lot of older players, Big C. I mean, he's on the backside of his career. Whether he goes to Cleveland or not, obviously he's going to be there as a backup player. He's not going to be someone that comes in and contributes right away. Maybe wrong about that. But even when you have guys like Carter coming to Sacramento, that shows you they have a young team that just did great in the draft, but now they're bringing in older guys, perhaps just for the experience. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, here it is, the point guard on the Sacramento Kings, Charles.
Yeah.
Who was born 6 months before he started.
Yeah.
When you talk about a youth, you're getting all of that in Sacramento, but he just signed a one-year deal for $8 million
Yeah.
in Sacramento. So as long as they're going to give you several $1 million a
Yeah.
year, why not play? I look at the Carmelo Anthony situation as I talked about. They just signed Hardaway.
Yeah.
So that's really opening the door for Carmelo Anthony to leave, because you sign a guy who hasn't done anything versus a guy who's had a pretty decent NBA stellar career.
Yeah.
And he's willing to drop this no trade clause in his contract. And,
Yeah.
Everybody keeps saying that Cleveland is always the team that everybody's going to pick up, and Kevin Love is out the door. I keep questioning, what has Kevin Love done wrong in his career that he's always on the trade clause? And he's the excuse.
Yeah.
He's the excuse that Cleveland hasn't won championships since he's been there.
Yeah.
And they won one, so he's at a 50% ratio.
Yeah.
A lot of players would love to be at that ratio, but he's had some injuries. There's other players that are out there on the floor. He's not the guy with the ball in his hand all the time.
Yeah.
And I do believe that he was either first or second with Cleveland in rebounding in the playoffs, Charlton.
Yeah.
So he has been productive. When you're in Cleveland, you got two guys that are going to be the top two scorers. It's Irving and James. Okay?
Yeah.
After that, you're selling for number 3 and 4.
Yeah.
And so this is a guy that gave up his leadership role when he was with the Minnesota Timberwolves to come in and help Cleveland become better.
Yeah.
But Cleveland is a team right now without direction. You get rid of the GM that has had you in 3 consecutive NBA finals.
Yeah.
You lowball a GM and Chauncey Billups, potential GM. You tell him, hey, we want to give you just a couple $1 million, which is not a bad payday. But
Yeah.
on the NBA standard, Charlton, even the GM who left was being lowballed.
Oh, yeah.
He had been in 3 consecutive finals, and he wasn't even in the top 15 paid GMs in the NBA.
Yeah.
And so Dan Gilbert really doesn't value the people that are within his organization, Charlton. So as they talk about this move with Carmelo Anthony and pushing along Kevin Love, how good will this organization be down the road without a GM who wants to come there and work, Charlton?
Yeah.
Dan Gilbert may know financing, but he does not know the NBA talent base.
That's very true, Big C. So I just want to finish up on 2 more segments here. In baseball, Francona missed the All-Star game after a heart procedure, so hopefully he's going to be okay. The Red Sox, the shortstop Baggards, his hand is still swollen and painful. The Reds agreed to a $7.23 million bonus with a high school draftee. Could you imagine coming out of high school? I think the Floyd Money Mayweather gave his kid when he turned 16, I think in Mercedes-Benz. Imagine coming out of high school getting $7.23 million, Big C, for the high school draftee. And I just want to say that all the people who are getting ready for Major League Baseball's All-Star game, it should be a great event coming up on Tuesday. I do like the fact that they open up the dome down there in Florida to let some more heat and humidity in on those baseball players, Big C. So hopefully they'll have an easier job hitting the curveball. And baseball should be able to showcase how dominant they can be, especially with the long ball being in pitcher again. So hopefully we see a great All-Star game. Big C, we talked about college football, one of my favorite sports. Even with the NFL, I think I love the way college football has really taken the fans by storm. The fans are a little bit more energetic. There's a lot more excitement around it when you have 100,000 people in a stadium watching a college football game. So it really touches my heart. I love that, talking about some of the top players. We even talked about some of the schools that are subsidized by the federal government for the athletic programs, and then schools like Ohio State make $100 million a year, and schools like Boise State are getting subsidized about $3 million from the federal government. And also, Big C, we know what's going on in basketball. You can be 40 years old, and you'll still be worthwhile for some NBA team to bring you on. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the world of sports?
Well, Charlton, I've been paying close attention to this 8th annual Wounded War Games, Charlton, going on in Chicago with all the American veterans that are participating. I believe they have some 265 veterans competing in the competition there in Chicago. Charlton, just a tremendous event. This is the first time this event has been held outside a military facility so that the public has an opportunity to attend because they can't get on those secure bases. But this is just to honor the athletes and show that America still cares, Charlton. These veterans who are going out with these debilitating injuries that they may have suffered mentally or physically during war, and being able to compete and have the camaraderie. And that's what sports is all about, camaraderie. Just as our service men and women are all about camaraderie, Charlton. To be able to come back and be around those who are just like you, and to be on equal footing, Charlton, that is a tremendous thing, whether you're in, civilian life or in military life, Charlton. And, I want to praise the government for doing this. This is the 8th annual one that is out there. So this thing has been going on for a while, and finally America is being exposed and given the opportunity to give back to these tremendous men and women of our armed forces, Charlton.
Well, Big C, that's very well said. We talked about college football. We talked about so many things from baseball and basketball and the games. Obviously, POTUS, hopefully he won't embarrass our military and support in the FBI, the CIA anymore, but obviously the cat's already out of the bag. And speaking of out of the bag, every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide, follow Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network, the #1 network in the United States of America, and Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and the good old boys down south. I want to say, everybody, understand this. There's never, ever any reason for domestic violence. Whether you're Bobby Knight or Donald Trump or anybody, if you know someone in trouble, just call 911, because no woman or even man should have to put up with that garbage. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports program, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.